Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Owocki, the founder of Gitcoin, and the title of my talk today is Welcome to the Information Age. I am a community organizer out here in Boulder, Colorado, and my work is made possible by Consensus. So thank you so much to Consensus for having me here today and for supporting Gitcoin from 2017 when Gitcoin was started. So before I get into my talk, I want to briefly mention that we are running the New York Blockchain Week virtual hackathon, which is a 3-week virtual hackathon in which you can work on all sorts of different prizes. We've got thousands of dollars worth of prizes available for hackers to work with some of the top teams in Web3, from Aave to Stellar to Pool Together, and really excited to be hosting this virtual hackathon with Ethereal. And hopefully you'll check us out at gitcoin.co/hackathons and work with some of the best teams in Web3, according to this in the Ethereal Summit. So the title of my talk is Welcome to the Information Age. And the idea here is that we're sort of been cast into this new world in which there's going to be a massive reaggregation of consumer demand towards remote first information age goods and services in the next 6 months. And so I think that this is a massive opportunity for the DLT space and for the blockchain space. And probably the wrong framing is, how do we capitalize on this to put blockchains and Ethereum everywhere? I think the right framing is, how do we use blockchains to solve problems that exist in the world today? And how do we enable social connection in a world in which everyone is now remote? Social cohesiveness in a remote first environment is a really important thing to me. And so we're in the middle of this abrupt shift in how the world is organized right now. And I think it's actually been in progress for several decades already. And if we pinch and zoom out a little bit, I think that what you'll see is that humanity has been organized in several different epochs, and the transition to the information age is just the latest change in the way humanity has been organized. If you really go back in time, in the hunter-gatherer age, when small bands of humans roamed around literally hunting and gathering for food, to the agricultural age in which we stopped roaming and started farming our food in a geographic area, and that changed the structure of society, how many people that you could relate to, and humanity transcended and included the old paradigm of how things were organized. If we play this forward, we can see that there's continual civilizational change. In the industrial age, we had mechanical processes that allowed for increased production, mass migration towards cities, and increasing output of advanced goods and services, things like art and technology, taxation, government. And I think that we're in this macro shift to the information age, in which the mechanism for organization is going to be the web. And so I think that this has been ongoing basically since the 90s, but we've been abruptly cast into this new world in the last 2 weeks and over since coronavirus hit. And so that's what makes it really super interesting to figure out exactly what this new world is going to look like. So if you're like me and you're a software engineer and you like tangible things that you can grasp, a sort of macro level talk like this might be a little bit uncomfortable to you, because it's like, what are we actually talking about? You hear these ideas about civilizational change, and it can feel like a history lesson and not super tangible. So let me narrow down what I'm talking about just a little bit. I think that it would be impossible for me to cover the entire breadth of the transition for humanity going from the industrial age to the information age. So I'll just tell you about some of the threads that I want to pull during this talk and exactly what I'm interested in. What will jobs look like? How will we fund public goods? What will be the mechanism through which we organize ourselves? And I think one way to think about this is through this idea called Dunbar's number, which is a suggested cognitive limit to the number of people through which we can have stable social relationships. So the idea here is that you can have 5 people in your kin, you can have 15 in your super family, you can have 150 in your tribe. And so one of the things that really is interesting to me is, how do we bring communities to web scale? If we can program our values into our money, how can we incentivize better collaboration systems where people can work together and work together online, because I think that this is one of the keys to what social cohesion will look like in the 21st century. And one way to narrow down the scope of this talk is maybe to talk about what I'm calling selector functions, which is a very engineering heavy way to say, how do you select the people that you socialize with? So basically, I grew up in southeastern Pennsylvania. For me, my selector functions when I grew up in high school and college were geographic in basis, so people who were around me and people who went to a public college like I did at University of Delaware were how I defined my social group. And so I think that as we're moving from a world that's going online, we're moving to a world in which the selector functions of who we engage with are a little bit more oriented around what your interests are. And we probably still have some baggage from the old way that things were organized. But as classes go online and as our social group increasingly goes online, we're going to be able to break geographic barriers and socioeconomic barriers. And that's a really exciting thing, but it's also a sort of scary thing as we start to think about what does an information age economy look like? What does an information age social group actually look like? How do we learn, earn, and network in this new world? And are we building a utopia, or are we trending more towards a dystopia? How will we create more opportunity for people instead of constraining people? So one of the ideas that I've been thinking a lot about is this idea that crypto networks are a lot like cities. So we've got common infrastructure through which communities can come together, coordinate, build towards shared economic prosperity and create progress. And from a bottoms up perspective, this creates opportunities for entrepreneurs like Gitcoin or an ETH2 client developer or anyone who wants to make an impact in the world. You have this common infrastructure to build upon. And I think that I'm giving this talk at Ethereal. It would be remiss to not mention that Gitcoin is built on Ethereum, which is the world computer, the coordination machine. What if we could evolve our online communities in order to take advantage of the properties of this coordination machine, which at its core is about creating games with transparent rules that can't change on you. So that's the founding myth of Ethereum, and I think that that's still true to me today. And so as we move from a world in which our trust is located, it before was focused on geographic areas and socioeconomic things. Who is your family? Who are your personal relationships? How do we build trust in an information age world? I think that the Ethereum virtual machine and this coordination machine that we're building can be sort of like the anchor that keeps us grounded to each other and helps us build a trustful relationship in the 21st century. So one of the things that we're trying to do at Gitcoin is to build a sort of a Disneyland for software developers. Lots of rides, lots of quests that developers can go on. They can meet people, they can create earning opportunities, and even have the opportunity to build the park yourself. And I think that when you think about the actual Disneyland, it's actually the center of an economic area in Orlando, Florida, here in the United States. So the parallel there, I think, works on several different levels. But one of the things that we really want to do is really just surface the best earning, learning, and networking opportunities for our community. And that's one of the things that really keeps me going when I'm building around Gitcoin. And I would be remiss to mention, since this is a talk a little bit about the Ethereum virtual machine and that our trust structures, is that I think that we fell into this trap in 2017 of thinking that if we take a human and we put in a token, then you get out an action, which is a sort of, I think, in retrospect, cynical and probably pretty naive way of organizing the world and organizing the economy. One of the things that we've found at Gitcoin is that we're oriented around this common mission of growing open source, providing economic opportunities to software developers. And it's this mission that the entire community is organized around. Before we even get to token dynamics or how people get paid for the work that they're doing, and in the incentive structures of Gitcoin, the fact that we're all oriented around this common mission of growing open source and creating economic opportunities for software developers is, I think, one of the reasons why we're able to design a better crypto economic network and provide value for everyone who's in the Gitcoin community and in the Gitcoin network. Another way of sort of talking about the incentive structures on Gitcoin and what I think a Web3 based social network could look like is using this idea of a heuristic function. If you're a software engineer like me, you might recognize this graph of heuristic maximalization as something that's pretty common in the AI space. But to just explain it in generalized terms, basically the idea is that when you're trying to advance your career, when you're going after any goal, you're basically climbing the hill of a heuristic function, increasing your bank account, increasing your opportunity. And so you can sort of map this out in a sort of very mathy visual way by mapping out what are the different heuristic functions that we as a society, or we as agents within a society, as actors within a society are climbing. And I think that one of the things that's really exciting for me about the blockchain space is that we can now program our values into our money. So we can create these immutable data structures that align incentives across different agents in the system. And I think a lot about whether or not I'm climbing the global maxima or I'm climbing the local maxima when I'm working on different things at Gitcoin. And for me, in my personal career, I spent my first couple years of my career in corporate America. And that was just sort of where the career services function of my college put me. And I didn't realize that there was other opportunities in startups and in entrepreneurship. And I realized that I was climbing the wrong hill. I was climbing the local maxima, and what I really wanted to be doing was climbing a global maxima. So I had to get off that hill and then switch over to another heuristic that I was aiming for. And so you can sort of, that's an example that's tangible to me, but I would encourage the listener to sort of think about what are the incentives and what are the goals that they have in their lives, and how are they maximizing those? And are the goals that you're optimizing for in conflict with each other, or are they in concert with each other? It's obviously better to build a world in which we have goals that are aligned with each other, and that you can be climbing this heuristic without sacrificing other goals. And so the cool thing about programmable money is that we can design a new economic landscape in which people are climbing the right hills and they're not sacrificing, arbitraging away their other values. And so this is specifically tangible with what we're doing with Gitcoin, and I think the Ethereum space writ large, in that we just want to align the incentives of software developers between the economic landscape and open source. So how do you work on open source software, and how do you pay your mortgage at the same time? It'd be much better to stack these incentives on top of each other in such a way that they're aligned with each other. And that's kind of like, I guess, a very mathy, engineering-y way of saying that we just want to align incentives for the developers in our network at Gitcoin. So without further ado, I would like to unveil to you that the next iteration of Gitcoin's network is this thing called Gitcoin Tribes, which will be a one-stop shop for software developers to find their tribe in Web3. So we want to leverage blockchain technology to create web scale community with strong economic ties, where people can climb the hill of creating a reputation and portfolio and connections for themselves out in the open, and create a better economic prosperity for themselves and for the Ethereum space writ large. So Gitcoin's in a unique position to do this, I think, because we've built a crypto city, so to speak. This is a graph of all of the different nodes in our network, all the different people in the Gitcoin network. And then each edge in between these nodes is a peer-to-peer financial transaction that has been enabled by the Gitcoin network. So we've done 47,000 economic transactions that are worth roughly $4.5 million in the last 2 years, since Gitcoin has been funded by consensus and has become a pillar of the Ethereum space. So this is not just theory. This is something that we're putting into practice every day at Gitcoin. And so this new experience of Gitcoin Tribes will be a one-stop shop to bring the latest in mechanism design to your remote-first organization. It will be community as a service. And this is just sort of a product mock of what we're going to be doing. And MetaMask is sort of our guinea pig right here. The idea here is that if you're building a Web3 product or a remote first product, as MetaMask is, then we can take all of the stuff that we've done at Gitcoin, all of the latest mechanism design that we've done, quadratic funding, virtual hackathons, workshops, Gitcoin Quests is a new and upcoming part of our portfolio, and we can design mechanisms that pull software developers into your community and keeps them engaged in a bottoms-up way in contributing in your crypto city, in your economy. And so we're taking everything that we've done on Gitcoin over the last 3 years and consolidating into this one-stop shop to bring the latest in mechanism design to your remote first organization. Some of the stuff that we haven't actually rolled out yet, but we're gonna be rolling out in the next several weeks and months is a new feature that we're gonna be adding to the Gitcoin network is personal tokens. So the idea here is that you can pre-sell your dev work in the Gitcoin marketplace. And I think the personal tokens are a really interesting experiment. We've obviously seen some chatter about them on crypto Twitter over the last week or so. But the exciting thing for us is that we've already got a liquid marketplace for dev work on Gitcoin. And so it would make perfect sense to have a personal token in which you can pre-sell your work into a liquid market on Gitcoin. And that's one of the things that we're pretty excited about, because it enables our community to not only monetize the reputation that they've built up on Gitcoin. This example person, Tommy Knox, has a 5-star rating, is very reliable, and has earned $6,000 on Gitcoin. So you can think that you can sort of think that this user would be able to monetize their reputation in Web3. Another thing that we're sort of working on, and this is a more systemic design thing, is how do we reward users implicitly and explicitly for providing value to a network, whether that's the Gitcoin network or that's MetaMask or anyone in your protocol. The idea here is that we want users to self-organize in order to meet the goals of that organization. And one of the things that I don't think that people really know that we're doing right now is we're taking quadratic funding, which we've proven out is able to help organize the Ethereum community in how it funds its work with Gitcoin grants. And we're actually running mini quadratic funding rounds on the Gitcoin network. So the idea here is that you can go on the Gitcoin network and you can tip someone 25 cents, and that maybe doesn't matter a lot. That maybe doesn't matter a lot in terms of the actual micro tip that you're sending, but the fact that there's a $200 quadratic funding round happening means that a 25-cent tip can mean $5 or $10 for that user that you're rewarding. So an actual true crypto economic incentive for micro tipping, which hasn't existed in the past, and I think it's one of the reasons why micro tipping hasn't really taken off. So that's an example of an explicit mechanism that you can use to give users to self-organize to provide value. Another thing that we're taking a look at is our friend Dandelion's work at SourceCred and the SourceCred Foundation, which basically uses a modified version of PageRank in order to provide an incentive, rewards for people for just adding value to a network. And that implicitly rewards people by dropping their native token Grain on the SourceCred community, and hopefully one day the Gitcoin community. And the whole idea here is that Gitcoin started off as this bounty network, a network in which you can give person X tokens and they will do Y scope of work for you. But that's a very quid pro quo relationship. You scratch my back and I scratch yours. What I really want to design into the Gitcoin community, and this is sort of the big idea that I want to end on, is that we can pay it forward. We can build economic communities that emulate some of the great things about local communities, that in which you can just give first and you can pay it forward. And I think that that's one of the most healthy things about my local community that I love here in Boulder, Colorado. We have this saying called give first. And what if we could build that into a web scale community where you're not actually having face-to-face time with people? And so providing a crypto economic incentive to go from quid pro quo to pay it forward is, I think, a really important step for us to take what's working on local communities and bring them into web scale. So if you remember one thing from this talk, it's that our world is changing. We are going from the industrial age to the information age, and this is our opportunity to build great communities at web scale. And that blockchain solves a problem here. Blockchain can provide trust anchors to our community. We can program our values into our money, and we can create better economic opportunities for hackers all across the world by leveraging blockchain technology. You can roll your own, or you can go to Gitcoin and Gitcoin tribes, and we'll provide a one-stop shop for you to help build your tribe. Last but not least, please check out the Gitcoin Virtual Hackathon for New York Blockchain Week and for Ethereal. We've got thousands of dollars of prizes that you can contribute to the Ethereum space from anywhere in the world. And I think that I'm really excited to be practicing what I'm preaching and giving economic opportunities to software developers across the world with the software and the work that we're doing at Gitcoin. That's all I got for you. I hope that you guys are staying well, staying safe, and most of all, staying happy in this new economic environment. And I'm really looking forward to the remainder of the talks at Ethereal. Thank you to Joe, thank you to Consensus, and thank you to the organizers for believing in Gitcoin and for having me here. I'll see you all on the internet. Peace.